I don't think we've had the chance to meet yet. Jim Struzzi, represent Indiana County. And I tend to say that a lot because I think it's important to understand the context of where I come from. But I do want to bring us back around to the opioid issue. You know, in Indiana County, we have a lot of rural areas. We have municipal police departments that are taxed with personnel. Because we also have the University of Pennsylvania, Indiana University of Pennsylvania in the community, really in the heart of Indiana County. We see a lot of drugs coming into Indiana County, and it's almost like a spoke for them to be sent out into other areas. And a lot of our municipalities don't have state or their local police forces, so they're relying on the state police. So that's a big concern with me when you know, constituents are calling my office to report drug deals because there's simply not enough police officers out there to take care of it on the streets right now. And I see that you're proposing to consolidate the drug law enforcement, local drug, and drug strike task force and the strategic response team line items in the budget. I want to make sure that, given what I just said about the challenges facing law enforcement right now, and let me give you another context. I have a direct personal loss several years ago in my brother to an opioid overdose, so I care deeply about this.
Sorry.
And I want to make sure that the constituents in our rural communities, by what you're proposing here, are still going to see the same level of enforcement, if not increased enforcement, to get these drugs off the streets.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story with me. And I know Indiana well. And in fact, I stood outside a pharmacy in Shalakta, Pennsylvania. You're probably the only one here who knows where Shalakta,
right,
Pennsylvania is. You know, because one of the things we saw in rural Indiana County, it was an hour drive just to throw away your unused medications that could ultimately lead to someone, you know, taking a Percocet when they shouldn't and getting hooked on these opioids. And so at that pharmacy in Shalakta and other pharmacies in Indiana County, you can now go in and get a drug disposal bag, right, take it home, throw away your unused drugs in an environmentally safe way in the trash can. I've spent a lot of time in Indiana County working on these issues. I can tell you unequivocally that the consolidation of these lines is to save us money on administrative costs so we can drive more dollars out into the community for enforcement. I see the Chairman Saylor's back. I mean, that's one of the things I promised him my first year sitting here, is that we were going to look at ways to do things in a more strategic way to save money on the administrative side, so we could put more dollars into enforcement. And this is one example of that. You don't have to take my word for it. What you should do is each year, you know, ask me how many investigations we've been involved in or how many actions we've taken to show that those numbers didn't go down. In fact, if anything, I think they'll go up. In 2018, as a combination of those three lines, we had 4,975 cases and 4,575 total arrests. I actually think we can do better as a result of saving some money on the administrative side, and that's the reason for the consolidation.
So you won't see any reduction in the amount of enforcement officers. It'll just be administrative costs that are reduced.
Exactly. I'm trying to increase our BNI agents. Right. I would just note for the record that my BNI complement today is still 41 agents fewer than the Attorney General had in 2004. Right? So we're still working to grow back to where we were. Now, you raised the issue of PSP, which is a good one. If I can, in whatever time I have left here, just quickly say, obviously, I don't work for PSP, I don't work for the governor, but I'm the first one to sit here at this table and tell you we need more funding for our state troopers. We need more state troopers in rural Pennsylvania to complement the work that my BNI agents are doing and other officials are doing. But when you have rural communities like you represent, where you don't have enough troopers, and a trooper gets called away on a domestic call, or a trooper gets called away on something non-drug related, sometimes that's 2 or 3 hours of their day just dealing with the travel, dealing with the paperwork, dealing with all that. That's 2 or 3 hours where they can't work with us or do their own drug investigations. We need more state troopers in rural Pennsylvania to help deal with these issues.
And just one final point.
Sure.
Still have a little bit of time, although I'm colorblind as well, so we could probably go on for a while.
There we go.
So by doing this, though, and what you said about the state police, will we see more enforcement then in the rural communities across Pennsylvania?
I don't know that I can say, look, as a result of this consolidation, you're going to have X number of additional people in Indiana County. I can just tell you overall, we're going to save money on the administrative side that we can put back into enforcement. as it relates to your district, as it relates to the task forces that we have up and running there, and the state trooper involvement with that, we can always use more personnel. And we're dedicated to taking some of the additional personnel that we're asking for here and getting it out into rural Pennsylvania. I would just say, though, respectfully to this body and anybody listening, that can't be instead of state troopers.
Right.
You can't reduce the number of state troopers and expect BNI agents to make up the difference, or expect whatever local municipal police might exist in a rural community to make up for it. You got to have all three, or in the cases of those where there's no municipal police, you got to have, robust enforcement at both levels, and you need the personnel at both levels.
Okay. Thank you.